Did Stephen Moffat save Doctor Who again, / for the first time? I suppose the real question of whether it actually needed saving is one for another day, but Stephen Moffat is back in the writing seat and the production seat for this episode of Doctor Who. Boom! Before going into spoilers, I'll say that I liked the episode. I think it was really strong. I think it worked a lot better than The Devil's Cord. I think The Devil's Cord was more artistic, but this felt like Doctor Who again. If this was slotted right into the 11th or 12th Doctor's eras, you wouldn't have seen me batting an eye. And if anything, I did feel like this was more of a Capaldi script than the very Russell T scripts we've had for the last few episodes. It hits every single Moffat beat almost to a ludicrous degree. It's like you're running through every single plot point he's ever done. It's nice to see the returning Christian army that we saw in the Time of Angels episode, and I think this is by far Nshuti's best performance, and the realest his characters felt. This is the first time I feel like this is a Doctor that could be grumpy as well as the happy-go-lucky scamp that we've had for the last few episodes. Spoiler time, I guess. I'm not going to beat around the bush any longer. I think the episode's pacing is its major issue, but that comes from the lack of two-parters this entire series. It does feel like the switch to 8 episodes has forced them to cram and cram and cram. This episode feels like it barely fits in the 40 to 50 minute runtime, and it made me question, when did we have time in old series? I'm thinking back to series 1 under Russell. We used to have slower moments. That's not a complaint of this episode in particular, but all 3 that we've had so far this series. People have said it's because there's no more two-parters. Well look, we didn't need them in every two-parter. Look at things like School Reunion. There's scenes of Rose and Doctor just eating chips and having a chinwag. They're fixing K9 in a cafe. They're still delivering exposition, but it doesn't feel like we're on an adrenaline rush 24/7. The reason I bring this up now is because Moffat goes through so many of his Moffatisms in such a high speed. It feels like you've fed the Moffat scripts into the TikTok algorithm. We instantly attack capitalism and faith and general religious armies and poor healthcare systems and the pointlessness of saying thoughts and prayers. I love it, but Jesus, it was a hell of a lot. I just feel like Moffat's never been very good at fitting all of his stuff into one episode. He likes having an entire series to spread his ideas over. And then when you have to take that and also fit in the season arc with the snow, the mystery of Ruby's origin, I feel like he had a lot to fit in. And the fact that it works as well as it does is a testament to how good an idea it was. It's a very small scale thing. It's sad that we didn't get to film it in a real British quarry, but I think having it all in one scene, it's essentially a one location mini play. It reminds me so much of the Series 10 finale, where the Doctor and companion go on a light-hearted mission that should have been nothing and nobody, but then it goes progressively worse and worse until everything is in ruins. When Ruby got shot, all I could think of was the big hole in Bill's tummy during that episode. I think the placement in the series limits how much I enjoy it a little bit too, because it's so early on in the show. I did not have any real suspense. They're not going to kill off Ruby on her 3rd episode. Like, taking aside the fact that we know she's here for longer, I wouldn't believe it. So it's the fact that it's hard to get too stressed on episode 3 of the show. I think they did a good job of killing loads of side characters to make up for it though. How I'd fix Boom, obviously putting on my I'm not a good writer and I've never written any television, so I'm not going to come and critique Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies, is I wouldn't change that much at all. I just make it the prelude to the season finale, or a prelude to a 2-parter that's quite meaty. The fact that they didn't surrender like they could have means that it just felt like the religious soldier lady, her arc didn't finish properly. The hack was kind of a get out of jail free that she didn't have to surrender her beliefs to, and it just felt like a bit of a cop-out there. What I would do is I'd take out the hacking element and just end the episode with her surrendering. Maybe Ruby's still in critical condition, everything's a bit ruined, the Doctor gets her finally to surrender, and then they surrender and they're collected up by the military base. Let's say that she's under arrest too because she was given unlicensed surrender, and then the Doctor, are in one prison cell and they have to escape on their end. Ruby's off in some medical wing because of how badly she got shot, and so she gets to have an adventure with some other side characters, and you learn a bit more about the world. Obviously this is giving Moffat an awful lot of credit because it would be giving him 2 episodes to explore an idea of his, but I just think that would make this episode feel a lot better because it would be all that build-up of tension for them to be trapped in a not worse situation, but a more manageable situation for the Doctor and Ruby to get out of. Nshuti's acting today was amazing. I really liked that he was a bit more stern with Ruby, which is obviously not necessary. You don't need to be telling off your companions 24/7, but I wouldn't have expected him to need to from the first episodes. It seems like she was the perfect companion. She always does exactly what she needs to do, and everyone's super happy clappy. The fact that they had a little bit of a disagreement here adds wonders, and with next episode seemingly being a more Ruby episode, the more character we can shove into these two, the better. I think Millie Gibson did a great job this week too. We're not hitting Clara levels of emotion here, but we're getting a hell of a lot closer than the Yaz era of companions. For my rankings so far, Space Babies is on the top for me. It tried to do a lot less, but it successfully delivered what it was going for very well, I feel. A cute, fun romp. The messaging was a bit wonky, but it didn't really matter because the episode was about having a cute adventure with the Space Babies and the Bogeyman. 2 would be Boom for me. I think Boom was really strong. It had too many ideas almost. It could have done with more time, but it hit a very interesting point. I cared more about the side characters here than in The Devil's Chord, which would be, my least favorite of this era so far, because I just think it starts with an amazing premise. It doesn't quite deliver on it properly. For a musical episode, the music didn't hit. For me, I just think it was too bad, and I'm really sad because I wanted to love the Devil's Chord, and I think Maestro is one of the coolest villains we've had. I think they were very intimidating and did a good job of posing a threat, more so than the Toymaker. But I just think, the giggle and that episode are missing something proper, like a good ending. But yeah, so that's how I'd see them so far. And The Church on Ruby Road is probably a little bit more consistent than Boom if we're going back to the Christmas special, but it's also the most time we've had to get to know the characters, so I think Ruby Road is a real strong contender for second best episode after Space Babies. But anyway, that's what I think. Are you excited for next week's episode? It seems to be a bit more horror based, a bit more like It Follows. I'm excited to see Ruby get to show off her stuff a bit more about the Doctor, and it will be the real test by trial by fire in terms of, will she be an iconic companion for all time, or will she be forgotten and left behind like Dan? Until next time, have a lovely week.